be done with the jack position. I'm curious if there's another position in the defense where maybe there's still a lot of wrinkles to show.
I think what we've done with our safeties so far, it is a safety-driven defense, so we're multiple with those guys. But we have not blitzed them a whole lot. We, like I said, we haven't had to. So I think there's more that can be done there at that position.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1 The Fan.
Jim, watching every week, I think we can see how much JT is impacting the game up front, and the numbers aren't really there for him personally. What is it that he does well that impresses you or makes him so valuable to this team that doesn't necessarily translate for himself?
JT is that combination of get-off quickness and strength, kind of like Mike has at the inside. I think JT has that on the outside. So he's, being accounted for and uses up a lot of blocks, makes initial penetration a lot in the pass rush. I'm sure you guys see it a lot of times that draws holding calls or could have, would have, should have been a holding call. He's guys that he's one of those guys that kind of makes things happen initially at the play. Doesn't always get the credit, but he's making the ball redirect or the quarterback do something different right at the snap.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Whether it's Tommy here at the mic or Malcolm Rodriguez when he was still at Oklahoma State, with all due respect, those guys don't necessarily look like the guys who would be having the level of production that they've had in your defense. So from your perspective, what do you like about that type of player? And what does it take to be the Mike linebacker, I guess, in Jim Knowles' defense that allows that position to be so productive?
Someone who can see the big picture, right? Understand the scheme and where they fit. And that's important, right? Because a lot of times guys are good linebackers just because they run around and find the ball. Those two guys that you mentioned, they see the big picture. They understand where the ball is going to come out. And then with both of them, there's no trepidation about, taking their shot. And I think that's what you're seeing with Tommy. That's what you saw with Malcolm. They're confident. They're confident that they know where the ball is going to be. They see the read, and then they go and pull it. And so far, he's been right most of the time. But you got to have that confidence to take your shot too.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Hi, Jim. We know Iowa's offense has struggled, but the one thing they've done very well is throw to the tight end. What kind of stress does that put on your defense? And I'm not expecting you to give away your game plan, but how much of a concern is that? No,
it's a concern. I mean, this is the best tight end. Even two of them, they're all good, like you said, since Notre Dame. So definitely need to be aware of it. You have to contest. It's if you give those guys too much space, they kind of body you up and make catches. So you got to have tight coverage. I think that's the key. Whether you're in zone or in man, you have to get your hands on them.
Front row right, Tim May.
Whatever. Yeah,
that's
good.
Letterman Row.
Jim, what are you selling your team, your side this week, going into this game? These guys are averaging 238.7 yards per game, last in FBS, 131st, and I know they throw the tight end, but what is it that they do well also that that you're stressing to your group?
The blocking schemes, right? I mean, well coached. So you have some different schemes that result from quarterback under center, the combination of wide zone schemes along with pull plays and, plays that get you running and cut back on you. So it's different. We've seen a little bit of it already this year, but it's different than the way that we're trained. And, I always talk about going back to your training. it's different because it's a huddle and it breaks the huddle and all those things that we've seen some of and we're going to continue to see more of. So I think it is a matter of understanding how these type of offenses operate and being able to react and fit. And even though it's not zone read and all those things that you kind of start out training these days, it is something that, obviously you see more of in the Big Ten, and our guys need to understand that.
Right behind him, Doug Lamreese, Cleveland.com.
Jim, Ryan was talking about complementary football with a team like Iowa. For any defensive coordinator, how does it affect your job, whether you are part of a program that has a typically high-scoring offense that more games than not is going to score a lot of points, versus you're part of a program with maybe an offense that's going to play the field position game a little bit more, maybe it'll be typically a lower-scoring game? Does it change your style? Is it any more aggressive, less aggressive? How does it matter what your offense does?
It's a good question, but it doesn't change what I do one bit. It doesn't. It's defense is an attitude. It's a mentality. So it's, you have to go out there and stop them, right? And defense is a right now proposition. It doesn't matter what the score is. So I guess in a way it makes it a little more challenging because our offense is so good in that we maintain that level and that attitude no matter what the score is, because there's going to come the time and the place. And I don't believe that you can just dial it up and all of a sudden say, hey, it's a tight game. Let's call those defenses that work now. You can't, you got to, it's just an over and over again mentality. So it doesn't affect really the way I operate one bit.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS 10 TV.
The cornerbacks, Ryan said, have been there, just have to attack more at the point before it gets there. I'm curious if you change anything the last week and a half, 2 weeks over the bye week. Did you work on anything more, or is that just something that will eventually come?
Yeah, it's going against the good competition every day that we have here, that we're fortunate to have here. It's more reps. It's coaching that finish. And trying to illustrate to the guy, okay, look what happens when you turned your head the wrong way here versus when you did it correctly. So it's just a matter of continuing to rep it. And, like I said, a lot of the responsibility is on me because I need to change up coverages and do things well enough to give those guys, give the quarterback some confusion as to what he's seeing. But the more reps we can get against our offense, the better.
We're going to go far left. I'm not sure if it was Jared or Justin from WCMH.
Back in the spring, you went to Pick North for a college showcase of sorts. I saw you on the sideline last week. You talked about how important it is to recruit the guys in Central Ohio. What did you make of the experience of going to the game? Was that your first chance to go to a game in the area, and what else did you do on the bye weekend?
How much are we allowed to talk about recruiting? Is there a particular? Yeah.
Just general.
Yeah, just general. I've growing up in Pennsylvania, and I was at Eastern PA, right? So you always kind of had I don't know if it was a chip on your shoulder, but I always thought like Ohio and Western PA, like that was where the real football was, being an inner city kid. So I've always felt that high school football in Ohio was just superior, and you never really know when you're young, is it talent or is it coaching or is it toughness? I think it's just general attitude and support. So that's, I guess, what I've seen is, love going to games because of the support from the community, how important it is to people. And I think that just kind of trickles down, and that just makes football in the state that much better.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Sort of a follow-up to what Doug asked you about, but you're in charge of a defense right now that has made a pretty dramatic improvement since last year. But how do you keep applying those standards as sort of independent of results, I guess, and communicating that in a way that players, I guess, get what you're trying to do as opposed to thinking you're holding them to a standard they can't achieve.
Yeah. I mean, positive results help, right? Because they see themselves making plays, they see the scheme working, how they fit in it, right? So that positive feedback helps. I mean, all players need that. So when I continue to stay on them and push them, they know that good comes out of it, and that they're productive, and everybody does well. So, but it's habits, man. It's habits. It's just habits and training and everything that Coach Mick does in the weight room, everything that, our culture and Coach Day preaches about fighting. It's just like fighting every day to continue to improve, no matter what the score, no matter what the circumstance. But doing well helps, right? Because they can look and see that it does work.
Right behind him, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
You talked about how JT has made this big impact even though he doesn't have a ton of stats. Is that something you've had to sell those pass rushers on, of your impact's not always going to show up in the box score?
No, I haven't. Coach Johnson does a great job with those guys being one unit, one group, and it's the same way we're building the defense. Is just, hey, we all of us together are stronger than any of us apart, and it doesn't matter who gets the credit. It's tough in today's day and age because of social media and everything, but I think that when you look at football, it's the greatest team game there ever was, and it's our job as coaches to uphold that what you do as a group can carry impact for ages, where alone, your stats may be great, but what kind of lasting impact are they going to have on the culture? So, Coach does a great job with those guys up front, so they're all in. They don't care who gets the glory.
Fourth row middle, Tony Gertman, Buckeye Huddle.
Jim, you may have seen some high-scoring college football games this weekend. I think you guys have only faced the 68th best offense nationally in Toledo. You guys see Ohio State every day. How often is the team you face every day an accurate indicator of what the defense will be doing against better offenses in games?
I think it's accurate. I mean, I do. I think that's why I enjoy and appreciate every chance we get to go against our offense. And, we make those cut-ups against our offense, in terms of teaching, because it is what we're going to face, So I think it's real accurate. Get a judgment, and, I'm pretty hard on them when we go against our offense where, other guys might just be like, well, we're just kind of getting speed of the game. But I think it's very important how we do against our own guys, because that is the best offense in the country.
Got time for a couple more. Front row middle, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, you talked about the corners getting reps against this group of wide receivers. How do you think they looked during the off week? Just what did you see from them in practice?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they looked good. More times than not against our guys, you're not going to look good, and but you do learn from, even the plays you don't make, and you can coach off of it. So I thought we had a good week, and we challenged, Again, always go back to me, right? Am I mixing the coverages enough? Am I making the quarterback hold the ball for an extra second? All those things that result in the matchup on the outside. But I think those guys worked hard, had a good week.
Second row right, Bill Landis, The Athletic. Nope, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Folks don't know about that Philadelphia Catholic League ball here, Jim. They gotta learn.
It's gotten a lot better since I left, yeah.
Ronnie is on pace for, I think, half the tackles he had last year. But he said that's a good thing because it means the ball's not getting to him. On a down-to-down basis, how does he impact things for you, even on those plays where it doesn't end with him making the stop? He's been such a constant for you. Why is that the case?
Yeah, his attitude on the sidelines, whether it's the sidelines of practice or the sidelines of games, right? A lot of things that people don't see. I mean, he is that guy who kind of always keeps, a strong defensive attitude in that, hey, we got to do our job, how do we correct this? What's next? Just a really focused guy. So you see that helps a lot. Yeah, it's a good thing that he's not making that many tackles. But like I said, we can always do more with our safeties when the time comes and need be.
Far right, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Did Tennessee kind of make you sit up and take notice? Did you see them in that game?
I saw them, yeah, and my daughter went to Tennessee, so I sent a lot of money to Tennessee, but she made me keenly aware with, LFG vols, texts that she sent me all the time, but, so it was, yeah, I mean, that is a lot of what I went against in the Big 12, right? That kind of attitude of offense. The kind of attitude that our offense has, right? Is like we're trying to score every play. I think that's what you saw out of Tennessee. So systematically, I really built things for that kind of offense, right? And now the adjustments come in terms of more tight ends and fullbacks and those kind of things, but is more of what I used to, what you saw in the Tennessee game.
And final question, front row left, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Jim, how much can Jordan Hancock help you guys once he gets back? Like, how good was he in the spring and in camp before he got hurt, and just how much can he help you guys?
Yeah, Jordan can be a great help. I think really like the way he performed before the injury, and his attitude, his calmness, his demeanor. I think he's got a lot of the things you look for in a corner. So having him back in the mix will be helpful to the whole group and the defense. I mean, those kind of things can really change calls and make an impact behind the scenes. His demeanor, I think, is helpful to all of us.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.